This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Listen to the beat of your heart, Marianne. You hear the beat of fear within you? Fear that will rise to a shattering crescendo of terror.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here on my own today as my co-host is actually at a musical festival, so it's just me today. So it's time to talk more about my movies. We've discussed a few Hammer films on here before, so why not continue with my favourite one, Brides of Dracula from 1960. Hope you enjoy.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Before we get into the podcast, I do have an announcement to make. As you may know, over on the Deluxe Edition network, we've been getting ready to do the DENNY Awards, in which people can vote for their favourite podcast and also vote for their categories, ours being the best horror movie of 2022. Well, voting time is up, and on Sunday night at 8 PM EST over on Deluxe Edition Pod's YouTube channel, you can watch the DENNY Award show. You don't want to miss out. So shout out to Ray and Casey. We also have 2 new podcasts of the month over on the network. We have Barrel Aged Chicks, which is a spin-off show from the Barrel Age Flicks, a group of girls that have some fun and they discuss movies. If you're a fan of BAF, you'll definitely like this podcast, so definitely check them out. And then we have Deep Dark Secrets. It's a true crime podcast that I've really actually started to get into a lot lately, so you have to check them out. There's so many good podcasts on this network. I usually just tend to listen to the Deluxe Edition Network's podcast, and I think you should as well. I'm going to leave a link to the 2 podcasts in the description, so do yourself a favour and just go listen. With that being said, let's get into the podcast. So, I'm a real big fan of Hammer, and Hammer really started to get known in like the late 50s and 60s by taking over the rights of Dracula, the classic monsters from Universal, Frankenstein, the Mummy. And this film that we're talking about today is actually the sequel to the original Dracula, starring Christopher Lee. Unfortunately, in this one, Christopher Lee is nowhere to be seen. But stick around, I think people might like this one. So the film follows a young French girl, Marianne, and she is played by Yvonne Monlier. I'm hoping I'm not butchering that name. And she got a job as a teacher in Transylvania, but her carriage drops her off at a pub and just leaves her there. It's a bit bizarre. The owners eventually welcome her to stay until the Baroness comes in. Now the Baroness is this crazy old woman, real intimidating looking, and promises Marianne that she could drop her where she needs to go in the morning. She'd need to stay in the castle. The owners are a bit weary of the Baroness. I'm almost convinced that they know what's going on, but you know how these films go. So Marianne ends up staying the night, and it is said that the Baroness has a son that is crazy and is kept locked up the whole lot. Marianne ends up seeing him across from her balcony and ends up going down to him to find out that he's locked up like a mad dog, and he is our Dracula for this film. Now, you can't really compare him to Peter Cushing, but the actor really does a good job of being an intimidating vampire. He is very good. The Baron Meister, and he convinces her to get the key from his mother's room to free him. So eventually Marianne and the Baron is caught by the Baroness, and her son then kills her. So Marianne runs off into the night, and that's when we're introduced to the legend himself, Van Helsing, played by Peter Cushing. For starters, Peter Cushing can't do any wrong in my eyes. No matter what film he's in, he makes it his own. He's a really good actor. He usually plays the Van Helsings in these Hammer films, and this one is no exception. This film wouldn't have been as good if he wasn't in it. And although it's a sequel to the horror of Dracula, it definitely feels like its own film. A lot of the other Draculas kind of tend to use the same format, same formula, but I just like the vibes off this one. Gothic horror, great sets, the music, and Marianne is gorgeous. The film was directed by Terence Fisher. He's the one that brought you all the great hammers from the original Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy. He's the best actor that you've ever used. You always got the spooky vibe down, but keeping it light-hearted. And this film had a budget of 120k, but it made its money back with way over $1 million at the box office. There's actually a great scene with one of the vampires coming up from the grave, and you're talking 1960. A lot like that. This wasn't done before. I think almost predates Night of the Living Dead when they're coming up from the ground and all. I'm gonna show you a clip of it now. It's, for the time, it was really spooky, and I absolutely fucking love it. I can't show you too much because we're on YouTube, unfortunately. We'll get copyrighted. But honestly, like, there's a lot of scenes in this film that would be go on to be in a lot of other films following it. That's typical Hammer fight. Like, everyone looks back at Hammer as like, oh, the films are very slow and they're cheesy. Even my co-host doesn't really like a lot of them. But there's something special about these films, and you really need to appreciate it. Like, we have Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, like they were the fucking stars of Hammer. And I don't know, I don't think horror would have been the same as it is now without the Hammer. I'm a big fan of the Hammer, and I'm a big believer that these films were important. And although I said my co-host isn't here today, I'm gonna let Dean now tell you about one of our sponsors. Let's get into it.
Life is scary when you wake up and realise that you texted your ex a you up text. Yeah, we all deal with those Sunday scaries. The oh shit, stressful, nervous, can't sleep, dread feelings that hit you on a Sunday evening when you're thinking about work or school or just life for tomorrow. Unfortunately, you can feel that same pit in your stomach any day of the week. Sunday Scary CBD gummies were made to defeat the crap life throws at us. These are the perfect CBD gummies for professionals on the grind, super moms, students, party animals, regretful drunk sexters, and everybody in between. I am a terrible sleeper. My scaries tend to hit me at night time, so I end up spending precious noon hours staring at the ceiling questioning life. So I'm always looking for new ways to get better sleep. Sunday Scary CBD gummies help me decompress, clear my mind and fall asleep so I can wake up like a fully functioning human being. We all have the right to live scare-free. So whether you need to take the edge off, calm your mind, sleep better, or just chill, take 2 CBD gummies every day to keep those scaries away. Let me save you with our 10% discount. Visit sundayscaries.com and use our promo code GRAVEYARD. That's GRAVEYARD, all capital letters, for 10% off at sundayscaries.com.
So continuing on with the review. The Baron Meister, as we know in this film, he is the Dracula of this film, goes on a killing spree through the village. And obviously that gets the attention of Van Helsing. Skip forward and Van Helsing goes to the castle and comes across the Baron's mother, the Baroness. And if you remember what happened, he leaves her for dead. She basically turns into a vampire. Van Helsing eventually kills her with a wooden stake. It's funny, all these different like stereotypes of how to kill a vampire. Like we see a bit in this film, like the wooden stake, the silver bullet, which I think, I don't know if it originated with werewolves and having garlic on you. I don't know where people get, like, it's obviously in the folklore, Dracula and vampires and stuff, but, and the one thing, it's like a little critique of these Hammer Dracula films per se, is the ending of them, like the fight scenes can be a bit fucking, bit ropey, I'll be honest, but every single, like, it's, Peter Cushing was an older fella even in these films at the time. So at the end of this film, the fight scene is not really, it's not really too exciting. Van Helsing kills the Baron with a cross. He dies from exposure to the cross, which is real happy days, I find. Like, but I don't know, they have a charm, these films, so I don't feel like they need to have a big epic fucking fight at the end of it, if you know what I mean. But I enjoyed it. Do you know, I enjoyed the ending of it. Before I get into my like thoughts and the rating of this film, I do want to give another shout out to the Deluxe Edition Network, Casey and Ray, every podcast over there. Honestly, if you're looking for a place to find loads of podcasts all at once, there's a great selection of podcasts over there. You have horror podcasts like my own, you have true crime, you have pop culture, you have kind of comedy podcasts over there. There's a really good selection over there. And I hope everyone tunes in to the Deluxe Edition Pod's video tomorrow. It's going to be live streamed. So I hope to see everyone in the chat over there. It's going to be good. Like, there'll be a few awards and we'll be announcing who won the podcast of the year over there. and the winner will get this big, it's almost like a WWE wrestling belt. It's really cool. So I'm going to leave a link to that video as well in the description. And subscribe to their channel, subscribe to everyone over in Deluxe Edition. Really good people. And yeah, I hope to see you there. So my opinion about this film, I really rate it. I'll be honest with you. It has everything that you need from like a horror film from the times. Now, obviously, as Hammer got on with their films throughout the 70s, obviously the Americans were making even better horror films, like The Exorcist and all this type of stuff, and it kind of just left Hammer kind of looking old fashioned. But at least at this time, 1960, Hammer had the horror genre by the bollocks. So I did enjoy this film. If I was to give a rating of it, I would give it'd be up there. I'd give it like an 8 out of 10. It's probably one of my favourite Hammer films. What's funny about these Hammer films, the main lead actresses are usually like foreign girls, like say Swedish or French girls or Italian girls, and they're usually like nobodies. But you get a good kickstart in here. Now, I don't think Yvonne went on to do much more. She was in another Hammer film, Terror of the Tongs. I think Christopher Lee is in that one. I haven't seen that one, but I'll be honest with you, I really did enjoy her in this film. She was really good. Not the best actress, but she was nice to look at, and I thought everyone else done a great job. I thought the Baroness was very good in it. The Baroness done a really good job of being a real spooky mother kind of type. And then the Baron himself, even though we didn't have Christopher Lee as the Dracula in this one, he'd done a good job in his shows. I'm not sure why Christopher Lee never came back to do the sequel, because he's done every single one of them. He done the other 8 that came out. So I don't know. Like, it would have been even better, say, with Christopher Lee as Dracula, because the story kind of does continue from the first one. The start of the film starts out as the narrator says Dracula is dead, and basically the Baron is his disciple and kind of continues on what Dracula was doing. So yeah, I did enjoy it. Like, and actually, speaking of the Baron himself, he is played by an actor called David Peel, and I was just looking him up there. He wasn't in too much stuff. Few films in the late 40s and then 1 or 2 in the 60s. There's a silent film called Hands of Orlok, and he's in the 1960 remake of it. So I may check that out. But I did read that he was gay. So around the 1960 times, it wouldn't have been the best time for gay people, and I think he had a bit of trouble finding other movie auditions and spots in films because of that. So that's sad to see, because that's sad to hear. I mean, because he was actually a really good actor. I wouldn't have minded seeing him in a few other stuff. He was slick in it, and I don't know, he was real smooth in it or something like that. I did like him in it. Thought all the actors done good. Peter Cushing, as I said before, you could put him playing an alien in a stupid mad comedy film, and he'd do a good job on it. Like, most people know him from Star Wars, but I know him from these sort of films. He is really, really good. So, Brides of Dracula. At the end of the day, we've a film from the 1960s, directed by Terence Fisher, and it's one of my favourite. It is one of my favourites from that time. Again, a lot of people bash on the Hammer films. They're too slow, they're too boring, and all this type of stuff. But like, I don't know. Once you get into these sort of films, there's tons of films out there. So if people want me to review more, I'll even try to get my co-host D to watch a few more. We did do one on Dracula AD 1972, and that was basically I think that's like the 6th Dracula film in order. I'm not sure, and what's different about that one. It was set in modern time, so I might leave a link for that one as well if people want to check that out. There's tons of films in the Hammer catalogue. I've the box set down there with about 20 or 30 films in it. So there's tons there. I do really want to start talking about more classical films. I know a lot of the horror community wants to see new horror, but I think there is a bit of room there. There's a bit of wiggle room there to be talking about the classic films. I'm a sucker for the old Dracula films, like Bela Lugosi, the James Whale, Frankenstein's. I love them films. So you will see a lot more classical films from me and my co-host, hopefully, in the future. But yeah, so this, as I said, this film gets a solid now 8 out of 10. Like, I'd almost give it an 8.5, but it's good at an 8. It's a solid film. The acting is fairly good, even at the time. Some of the Hammer films, the acting is a bit pantomime, if you know what I mean. So I thought the acting was solid. The sets, Hammer were known for their great sets and their costume design. They really know how to make a good gothic horror, like, cause a lot of their films are based in the Victorian times. And I'm not too sure about this film, but I am getting them kind of 1800s, early 1900s vibe off it. I've also been collecting the Hammer films on like Blu-ray and DVD. Some of them are very hard to find and get all at once, because at the time Hammer was distributing their films to, say, Paramount and Universal. Like different companies owned their films, so getting them now on DVD and Blu-ray after all these years can be a little bit hard. I don't have this one on Blu-ray, and I'll be honest with you, it is one that's worth having on Blu-ray. I wouldn't have minded it, seeing it in the full quality. But yeah, I'm actually more wondering now, is there anyone else watching? I know I have a lot of American viewers, and I'm not sure if a lot of them are, if they know a lot about the Hammer horror films, or they're even interested in it. So it'd be interesting to see. So please, like, if you like Hammer films or you want to see more, comment below and just let us know if I should keep going on with these. There's a few series I want to start on the channel. Like, I have a silent horror movie series I'm going to continue on, and they're basically like just like 4 or 5 minute long videos talking about like the silent films that kind of started horror films, in my opinion, in any way. But these ones I think deserve a full podcast, so I'm glad I'm talking about it. Even though I'm on my own here, I'm a bit out of my league here. This is the first podcast I've done on my own, so again, maybe let me know how we're done. I'm missing the co-host at the moment. Like, she's probably at the festival now getting fucking locked, you know what I mean, drunk. So you know yourself. So if you made it this far on the podcast, I'd like to say thank you for listening to just me for once on this podcast. I know it's going to be a bit different, but the co-host will be back really soon. We're planning on doing a Nexus full talking about all the films in one podcast. So that's the first 3, and then the prequel. And then one that we have in the works is a really good one. It's a top 5 found footage films. So comment below and subscribe to the channel, and follow us over on Spotify if you enjoy what you're seeing. Really appreciate the support. Check out the sponsors. Everything is going to be like left down in a link in the description for everyone. And again, check out the network. Shout out to Casey and Ray over there. And if you want to see more podcasts like this, let me know. And if you have any film suggestions for us, like horror wise, let us know as well. We really do appreciate the support. Even down to just leaving a like on the video. It really does make a difference. I think we're on 130 subscribers. So with about 20 videos, so that's not too bad. Like, so honestly, I hope we keep this hype going a little bit, and yeah, I've been enjoying it. I've been enjoying doing it. Like, so I'm gonna leave it here. It's only gonna be a short one today. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all of that for me, please, and make sure you're over on the Deluxe Edition Pods YouTube channel tomorrow for the DENNY Awards. If that cannot be missed. Like, it's on at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm in work the next day and I'm going to be watching it. So there's no excuse. Make sure you're fucking watching it. So I'm going to leave it here. See you on the next one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.